Today, we look at the rise of the electroshock weapons and their uses in the UK. Training officers who say that Taser is making a difference.
Having the Taser meant that nobody had to touch him, and we could deal with it at a safe distance and nobody got hurt.
The police say that the training is the best in the world, but are Tasers themselves fundamentally safe?
It would be impossible for anybody to turn around and say that Taser is 100% safe. And the reason being is because when we're using force, there is no such thing as a 100% safe option.
More importantly, is the police force using Taser to reduce risk? Or is it being used as a compliance tool?
It's not a compliance tool. Taser is not there to get somebody out of a car or make them give their fingerprints or subject to a search.
We discover that one day every officer on the street could be armed with this potentially lethal weapon.
If you talk to the average police officer on the ground, they will say we want all to be issued with Taser for our own protection and to protect the public.
And we reveal that models of Taser with double the firepower are being tested. Will they increase safety for all involved, or just the person pulling the trigger?
Whilst we accept that improvements are always welcome, it's potentially lethal and causes severe pain.
It's an early start in London. A dozen Met officers make their way to a military base where they will receive a refresher course in the skill of firing a Taser. The day lasts for 6 hours, testing awareness, drills and the ability to assess potentially life-threatening situations. Specialist Taser instructor Adam kicks off the day with a reminder of the basics: aiming, drawing and firing. Each officer keen to impress, as today's assessment is watched over by a senior master instructor, Sergeant Andy Harding.
The annual refresher is competency based, so if an officer does come back here at the end of the year and shows that they are competent, then again they will be authorised to go out for another year and deploy Taser.
What happens if they were to fail the refresher course?
If they fail their refresher course, then obviously that authority to go out there with Taser is removed from them.
With the pressure officers face on a day-to-day basis, it came as a surprise to see 2 officers fail the course before the morning was over. The likelihood of this happening on a refresher course is as low as 2.5% of the time. On the initial 3-day course, the failure rate is much higher at 25%.
Was there skills that you had forgotten? Yes, because it's skills that are probably unusual because it's not something that's regular or normal in everyday's life, even policing life. I've certainly learned or relearned some skills that I haven't used in the last year.
Deputy Chief Constable Simon Chesterman was the national lead on Tasers for 6 years, and since 2008 has been faced with the task of reducing the risks involved.
It's a weapon, it's not risk-free, and there are times when people are going to fall over and they're going to get hurt, but the electricity is very low risk. And if you said to me, would I rather be battened by a burly officer who's going to hit me across my elbows and my knees with a metal ash baton, or would I rather be tasered, which is going to last 5 seconds and I'm going to get up and brush myself off and be fine? I'll choose the Taser, thank you.
But not everyone gets a choice in whether or not they're being tasered. For Colin Farmer, being hit by a Taser came as more than just a shock. The 63-year-old man is registered blind and has survived 2 strokes. He described being tasered to press as a living nightmare. In some situations, the pain gone through is simply indescribable. Amnesty International reports over 500 Taser-related deaths in the US.
It's clearly a less lethal weapon, and because of that, because it's a weapon that inflicts severe pain or can inflict severe pain through electricity, it's a weapon that needs to be used very responsibly and carefully. It's not a pain-free process, so to be tasered really, really hurts. One of my favourite quotes is from a journalist who was subject to tasering, and he said it was like having his muscles shredded with a fork.
It would be impossible for anybody to turn around and say that Taser is 100% safe. And the reason being is because when we're using force, there is no such thing as a 100% safe option. All options that we have carry some form of risk.
Back at training, the remaining 10 officers are paired up to test how they reduce the risk in scenarios they are likely to face on the street. The first sees them chase down a knife-wielding convict. The main focus here is to talk him safely down from the car.
And certainly the training is very focused in this country, and I know you've observed some of that training. For example, you know, we wouldn't train an officer to taser somebody who's standing on a roof or something, because clearly they're likely to fall off.
What happens when it does go wrong?
We're not perfect, that mistakes will be made and occasionally things will go wrong, but we are probably one of the most accountable police services in the world, and when it does go wrong, officers will be held to account, and our training and policy and everything will be held to account.
Right, have you got any injuries, pal?
Oh, I don't know. I think I hit my head.
You hit your head?
Yeah.
Right, we'll get you an ambulance, alright? Just stay like that for me for a second.
The next drill requires a bit more strategy. The two officers approach a man who is suspected of stealing a woman's bag. It is also noted that he could be armed. The focus of this drill is to see at which point the taser is drawn. Too early could be seen as using it for compliance, too late and the officer could be injured.
There's been a couple of situations where if we didn't have taser, the person we were dealing with would have probably been either CS'd or battened, which would have looked horrendous and caused us injury. Having the taser meant that nobody had to touch him and we could deal with it at a safe distance and nobody got hurt.
Amnesty's main focus is to uphold human rights across the globe, and Ollie Sprague stands firmly against taser being used for compliance.
Taser should never be a weapon that's used as a pain compliance device. It was never introduced into the UK police force to be a tool of pain compliance. Unfortunately, because it's an electroshock weapon, because it leaves few physical marks, and because it inflicts severe pain at the flick of a switch, it can be misused as a tool for pain compliance, and it's utterly wrong.
The issue of compliance is one taken very seriously at the training sessions. A qualified trainer breaks down each scenario after officers have completed it, to make sure that guidelines were followed and their actions were justified.
It's not a compliance tool. Taser is not there to get somebody out of a car or make them give their fingerprints or subject to a search. If it was used under those circumstances, the officers are individually accountable in law and they'll end up in front of a court.
A Home Office report coming out at the end of the month is suspected to show that the use of taser has increased even further in the last few years. It was with this knowledge that I wanted to find out what the limit on taser was.
If you talk to the average police officer on the ground, they will say we want all to be issued with taser for our own protection and to protect the public. So there is a sort of, if you like, a groundswell of opinion from frontline officers that they would like taser. So, you know, it is a weapon, so there's sort of, you know, this business about whether everybody should have one, clearly that's a debate that will be ongoing within the police service, and clearly we need to bring the public with us. The public need to have confidence in what we're doing.
However, it may be a long way off until we see every officer armed. With the current debate of cop-worn cameras and the fact that taser is still just starting out in the UK, it's not just the public that need to be convinced.
We would be opposed to the widespread rollout of tasers beyond specially trained officers. It's simple. We want to see taser as a tool only in the hands of the most highly trained officers.
Introducing the most customer-driven taser device ever developed.
But it's not the quantity of tasers that will be leading the headlines this year, as we can reveal that new taser models are being considered by the police.
In terms of the actual technology, it's improving all the time. There are other models that are coming onto the market now that we're testing. There are two that we're actively looking at now. One is the X26P, which is exactly the same as the one we've got now, but it's got a better, if you like, memory system, computer system inside it, so it captures more information, and we would argue it's slightly safer. And there's also the X2, which is basically a taser that's got two cartridges on the front, so you can fire it twice. The opportunity to fire it twice is reasonably attractive, but we're just looking at the technology now to see whether it's fit for purpose.
Are these products safer for everyone, or just the person holding the gun?
Amnesty doesn't endorse any particular product, but we are always supportive of any technology that can increase that can increase the transparency and accountability of how that weapon is used. But I guess the point is, it continues to be a weapon, and it's how that weapon is used that's the real concern for Amnesty. You know, we want to make sure that it's only used in response to the most serious of incidents because of the type of equipment that it is. It's potentially lethal and causes severe pain.
It's late in the day back at boot camp, and 10 out of the original 12 officers have passed their physical assessments. All that's left now is a teacher-led class on the health and safety issues surrounding Taser.
As part of the initial course and ongoing refresher as well, officers are trained to identify what is a medical emergency, and if there is any doubt or if there is any way that an officer thinks that there is something going on in front of them that needs medical attention, then they're trained accordingly to deal with that.
Remember PC Munt? He's one of the 10 successful officers today, now able to go back to work with the confidence in his ability to safely and effectively use Taser.
I don't think it makes me feel safer as such, because if I'm going to a call where I know Taser might be used or could be used, then I know it's going to be quite a volatile situation. It's an interesting one, because yes, I am safer, but at the same time I don't rely on it and go, well, I've got Taser, therefore nothing can touch me. I think that would be the wrong attitude to have.
So, Taser is a device set firmly on our police force's utility belts that we will be seeing more of over the next few months, with a Home Office report releasing the stats on how it's being used, continued refinements with training and policy, and even a look into the futuristic world of law enforcement.